She thought I would cry. Maybe beg. Maybe ask what I did wrong. Instead, I looked her in the eye and asked one simple question. Are you absolutely sure? She smiled like she'd already won. What she didn't understand was this. Among the 37 names on that strategic client list, every single one of them knew who actually held the relationship. And it wasn't her. My name is Rebecca Sterling. At 36 years old, I had built something most people in private finance spend their entire careers chasing. A client portfolio so loyal, so deeply rooted in trust, that it practically ran on credibility alone. 11 years at Holbrook Financial had taught me one thing. In wealth management, contracts matter. Platforms matter. But trust. Trust is the real currency. And it follows people, not logos. That Tuesday started like any other. Coffee at 6:30. Market review at 7. A conference prep for the Lawson Holdings restructuring by 7:45. My team moved like a well-rehearsed orchestra. 37 high-tier clients. Nearly 70% of the firm's recurring advisory revenue. Every one of those relationships had been built through late-night calls, emergency strategy sessions, hospital waiting rooms, funerals, and celebrations. We weren't just managing portfolios. We were managing lives. At 8:42 a.m., the email came through. From Lindsay Carlisle. Rebecca, please come to conference room B, we need to discuss departmental restructuring. Lindsay had been in HR 6 months ago planning holiday parties. Then she married Daniel Holbrook, the founder's son. Overnight, she became Executive Vice President of Client Strategy. My boss. When I walked into the conference room, she was seated at the head of the table, posture stiff, confidence borrowed. Next to her sat Madison Cole, 25, fresh out of a marketing rotation program, still using phrases like disruptive synergy, unironically. Rebecca, Lindsay said without looking up from her tablet, we're restructuring to align with a more dynamic client engagement model. Dynamic client engagement. I had written the firm's retention framework 5 years ago. We never used phrases like that. We feel your approach lacks the innovative energy we're cultivating. Madison will be taking over your accounts effective immediately. I let the silence sit there. Madison shifted in her chair. Lindsay finally met my eyes. All 37 accounts? I asked calmly. Yes. Her smile was sharp. Madison brings fresh perspective. Fresh perspective. This was the woman who had asked my senior analyst last week what fiduciary duty meant. I folded my hands. And my team. They'll support Madison during the transition. Translation. They would do the work. She would take the title. Lindsay slid a thin folder across the table. 2 weeks severance. Standard terms. We expect a smooth handover. I didn't touch it. Instead, I studied her expression. She was expecting emotion. Instead, I asked, when would you like my office cleared? Relief flashed across her face. End of day is fine. Of course, I replied. You'll have everything that belongs to the company. That was the key phrase. Everything that belonged to the company. Not everything that belonged to me. The walk back to my office took exactly 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, I mentally ran through 37 names. Robert Lawson. Elaine Whitaker. The Denton Family Trust. Andrew Morales. People who had my personal cell number. People who sent holiday cards to my home. People who trusted me with generational wealth transitions and late-night fears about market volatility. Lindsay believed she was removing an employee. She had no idea she was attempting to sever a trust network built over 11 years. I didn't return to my desk immediately. I went to the restroom, locked the stall, and allowed myself 60 seconds of anger. Exactly 60. Then I washed my hands, fixed my lipstick, and went back to work. The biggest misconception in financial services is ownership. Firms own contracts. They do not own relationships. On my personal laptop, the one I used outside company hours, I opened the analytical models I had built myself. Independent valuation frameworks. Customized tax optimization scenarios. Long-term exit planning projections developed on weekends. Intellectual property that was mine because it was built on my time, on my equipment, outside their systems. I opened my personal contact database. Not the corporate CRM. My own network. Birthdays. Spouses' names. Philanthropic interests. Risk tolerance nuances that no template could capture. My phone buzzed. Text from Robert Lawson. Heard you're transitioning accounts. Everything okay? Word travels fast in private finance circles. I replied, change is happening. I'll send you a personal note shortly. Then I began drafting my email. Not bitter. Not defensive. Strategic. Dear Aname, I want to personally inform you that as of today, I am transitioning out of my role at Holbrook Financial. It has been my privilege to serve as your strategic advisor for the past 11 years. Your account will be reassigned internally. However, the proprietary financial models and independent analysis frameworks we have developed together remain accessible through the secure channels previously shared. I remain committed to your long-term financial success and am available for continued strategic discussions in my personal capacity. With appreciation, Rebecca Sterling. I customized each message. Referenced Robert's daughter's Stanford acceptance. Mentioned Elaine's foundation gala next month. Acknowledged Andrew's upcoming merger vote. These weren't accounts. They were human beings. By 3 p.m., all 37 emails were sent. I then gathered my team. Daniel, Priya, and Marcus had been with me for years. I want you to hear this from me, I said. I'm transitioning out. Madison is taking over. Daniel stared at me. That's insane. I smiled gently. Document everything. Protect your value. By 5 p.m., I handed Lindsay my laptop and company phone. All transition notes have been provided, I said. She looked victorious. I'm sure this is for the best. Change can be illuminating, I replied. As I walked out of Holbrook Financial for the last time, my personal phone vibrated non-stop. 37 clients. 37 questions. Lindsay thought she had eliminated a salary line. She didn't understand something fundamental. In professional services, the product is not the firm. It's not the building. It's not the platform. The product is trust. And trust. Walked out the door with me. The unraveling began at exactly 8:11 the next morning. I was sitting in my favorite corner of a quiet coffee shop downtown, laptop open, reviewing the 43 responses that had filled my personal inbox overnight. My phone rang. It was Daniel, my former senior analyst. His voice was tight. Rebecca, it's chaos here. I didn't sound surprised. Tell me. Madison sent out her introduction email an hour ago. Very enthusiastic. Excited to bring a fresh strategic lens to your portfolio. Within minutes the replies started coming in. Robert Lawson responded with 2 words. Where's Rebecca? He copied Lindsay. Then Elaine Whitaker hit reply, all asking why she wasn't consulted about leadership changes on a $25 million trust. I closed my laptop slowly. And Lindsay. She's in damage control mode. She just sent a follow-up about structural optimization and seamless continuity. But the phones haven't stopped ringing. My own phone buzzed again. Andrew Morales. I signaled Daniel to hold. Andrew. Rebecca, he said without greeting, I just got off a call with someone named Madison who couldn't answer a single question about the expansion model you built for us. Is this a mistake? I'm no longer with Holbrook, I said evenly. Silence. Then, our contract renews in 60 days. Your name is written into 3 addendums as lead advisor. I negotiated those personally. Where are you going? I'm evaluating options. Evaluate quickly. We follow you. When he hung up, I stared at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. I hadn't solicited anyone. I hadn't pressured anyone. I had simply told the truth. Daniel came back on the line. It's worse, he said. Lindsay tried to tell clients relationships are institutional. That they're tied to Holbrook's brand. I actually laughed. Softly. And how did that go? Someone leaked an internal memo. She literally wrote, Rebecca's relationships will transfer seamlessly. It's circulating internally. By 9:30, I had received 9 direct calls from clients requesting meetings. 6 more had emailed asking about continuity planning. At 10:12, my phone lit up with a name I didn't expect. Richard Holbrook. The founder. His voice sounded older than I remembered. Rebecca, I assume you're aware of the disruption. I've received a few calls. 9 of our top 15 clients have requested clarification. 4 are reviewing contracts. I need to know. Are you soliciting them? No, sir. I informed them of my departure. They're making independent decisions. He exhaled slowly. Lindsay wants to pursue legal action. On what grounds? She believes you're leveraging proprietary relationships. With respect, I said carefully, relationships aren't proprietary. There was a long pause. The board is discussing options, including offering you a senior partnership to return. I didn't hesitate. I'm not interested in returning to a firm where leadership can be reassigned based on marriage instead of merit. Another silence. You deserved better, he said quietly. Perhaps, I replied. But this may be the correction the firm needed. By Thursday morning, the damage was no longer theoretical. Daniel texted me updates like a war correspondent. 8 clients formally terminated. Madison resigned after an emergency strategy call where she mispronounced fiduciary during a presentation. Lindsay placed on administrative review. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt focused. Because while Holbrook scrambled, I had decisions to make. On Friday at 7:18 a.m., I received a call from Harper Lane Capital. Rebecca, said Samantha Harper, the founder, 6 separate referrals mentioned your name in 48 hours. We're launching a strategic advisory division. We need someone who understands relationship capital at scale. I'm listening. Full partner track. 40% compensation increase. Complete autonomy to build your own team. While she spoke, my phone buzzed repeatedly. Transfer confirmations. Clients moving assets contingent upon my next step. How many clients would realistically follow you? Samantha asked. I looked at my screen. Conservative estimate, 15 within 90 days. Optimistic, 25. And your team? 3 senior analysts ready to move. Samantha laughed softly. Rebecca, that's not a hire. That's an acquisition. By Monday morning, I walked into Harper Lane Capital as a partner. The first transfer hit before noon. $22 million in assets from Lawson Industries. By end of week, 19 clients had officially transitioned. Combined assets under management exceeded $400 million. Holbrook's legal team withdrew their cease and desist within 48 hours. They could not afford a public lawsuit that would expose the scale of the exodus. Then the media picked it up. A financial blog ran a headline. When relationships walk, how one leadership decision cost 40% of revenue. A Forbes contributor called for comment. I stayed professional. I didn't attack. I simply explained what every seasoned advisor knows. In professional services, trust compounds over time. And when leadership ignores that compounding effect, the correction is swift. The final blow came 3 months later. Holbrook Financial announced it was being acquired at nearly half its previous valuation. Lindsay Carlisle was mentioned in a single line. Former executive declined to comment. 6 months after I was fired, I stood before Harper Lane's partners presenting our first-year projections. $62 million in new revenue. 100% retention across transitioned clients. A team expanded from 5 to 23 professionals. But the real victory wasn't the numbers. It was the model. A culture where experience outweighed favoritism. Where relationships were treated as assets, not assumptions. That evening, I received a handwritten note from Richard Holbrook. We forgot the foundation of this business. You reminded us. I only wish it hadn't cost us so much. I framed that letter in my office. Not as revenge. But as a reminder. The difference between managing accounts and managing lives is invisible on a spreadsheet. But when you remove the person who carries that invisible value, the loss becomes very visible. Lindsay thought she was eliminating a salary line. Instead, she triggered a 40% revenue collapse, a forced acquisition, and the rise of a competitor division that now outperformed her former firm. The irony? I never plotted revenge. I simply continued doing what I had always done. Showing up. Building trust. Putting clients first. Sometimes the most powerful response to being underestimated isn't anger. It's excellence. And when excellence walks out the door, the market notices. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below and tell me if you've ever experienced a moment where someone underestimated your value. If you enjoyed this story of corporate miscalculation and professional redemption, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs the reminder. Trust is earned slowly, lost quickly, and never transferable by title alone. And sometimes, getting fired is just the universe clearing the path for something bigger.